it's moving, things are coming in. Taking the leap now. Contemplating running my own business. Yes. Been at it for a while and rocking it. 4 people. I can't wait. Some of your anecdotes, examples, and tips and tricks. Find it to the left side of the screen and feel free to tell us where in the world are you tuning in from today. Brittany, some friends are here, especially for you. Are you seeing that? Okay, wow. San Francisco, good morning. We've got Texas, Berlin, Helsinki, San Luis, Israel. Hey, Andrea. Salt Lake City. Whoa, it's moving fast. Utah, Heidelberg. Northeast here. Okay, cool. Well, I'm ending this call for now. Contemplating running my own business. We've got 20 folks in the room. Taking the leap now, 14. Congrats to you. Been at it for a while and still struggling. We're going to surface some of those struggles in a moment. And been at it for a while and rocking it. Kudos to you. And the second poll, talking about those struggles, I really want to hear some of them. Again, it's an anonymous poll. We won't be knowing who added the what in the chat, but I think this helps Kirsty, Brittany, and I to kind of steer the conversation towards any types of patterns that we might see. And we already have our first get new customers, I guess. That's a hot one. Brittany Fancook showed up. Yes, Brian. Okay, so I see a lot of finding back. Hello. Got a little glitch there, but I'm back. So here's what we see: getting first clients, teaching, finding clients, positioning myself, indecisive, getting my own way, pricing structure, value proposition, organizing everything. Okay. Do these sound familiar, Kirsty, Brittany? How we feel about this? Been there, done that? Yeah. All right, let me kill the music here. Thanks everyone for sharing. And then show the results. And we're going to also be able to see them in the chat as we continue our conversation. We can always kind of resurface and go back to those questions. We're spending an hour with Kirsty and Brittany today, and we have the unique opportunity to ask some of these challenges and get anecdotes and examples and ideas, insights on what has worked for them. I'm very happy they accepted my invitation to be with us today. My name is Anne-Maria. I work at Butter. I lead the Butter Community Project in case we haven't met so far. And I want to mention before we kick it off that the session is being recorded. We usually do that as we believe that facilitation is a skill that belongs to all of us. So we want to make sure that all the good stuff we're learning here is getting spread out into the world. And with no further ado, I'll welcome our guests on the stage. We will have the opportunity to ask questions. So as we continue the conversation, add your questions in the chat. I will pin them and surface them towards the end of our session and just make sure that that we're getting to them as well. All right, so the first person on stage, and this is going to feel a bit weird, Brittany, but I'll join you there as well. There we go. I'll join you here so it doesn't feel super awkward. Welcome. A big round of applause. Woohoo! We've got Brittany Bowring, expert workshop designer, facilitator, and event host. She's spending her time traveling the world, teaching companies like Twitter, Lufthansa, Lego, and Google how to design and deliver better workshops, team meetings, and company-wide events. So this is a stress test for our emojis here, as you can see. They're flying around. Brittany, welcome. Thank you so much for being with us today. And I will bring Kirsty onto the stage as well. Kirsty, hi. A seasoned facilitator with a wealth of experience and passion for empowering others in the field of facilitation, collaborating with companies including Diageo, Chanel, and Jacob Dove Ekbots. Is this the Dutch coffee? Yes, I think it might be.
It is.
In 2014, Kirsty created the School of Facilitation, which is gradually evolving into a beautiful, supportive educational platform for facilitators and corporations alike. So this is the official bio. Now I want to quickly pass the talking stick to Kirsty and then to Brittany. Do you want to say a couple of extra words about who you are, what lights you up these days? And then we kick off with the first question, in case I missed anything here.
What really lights me up is the fact so many people have shown up and given themselves permission to be here today to do some learning. That always makes my heart sing. And that people want, and also an acknowledgement that probably in the room, we've got loads of great passion for design, for delivery, for our particular subject matters, and just acknowledging when you step into this world, yes, all of that is required, and we need to know how to run a business. That's the biggest shift I think many of us have to make. It's how do you run a business? And I just know from experience, unless you come from a commercial background and you've got all of those commercial skills, I was really fortunate. I mean, I sold Guinness for a living, but the concept of selling is the same the world over. And I hated it at the time, but I'm really grateful now. So I think all of you will know, and looking at some of your challenges that you've said, it is about the marketing and selling element that often strikes fear, excitement, or oh my goodness me in our hearts.
I can't wait to hear what you have to say about that, Kirsty. Brittany, over to you.
Yeah, I think I would echo what Kirsty said. I'm just so delighted that and excited that there are so many people here who are interested in starting their own business. I think it is such an amazing thing to do. It's been the best decision I ever made in my career. And I've learned a ton. And I was thinking about it before jumping onto this event. And I thought, it's actually been a while since I've had this kind of discussion about, how I started my business and things that I've learned and all that stuff. And I get asked about it a lot. So I think it's going to be a really cool, I think it's just such a great topic, and it's hopefully going to be really a valuable hour for everybody. So yeah, that's all I think I'd like to say. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, let's jump straight to it. And I think we saw that majority of us are just starting our own business or are thinking to take the leap. So we're right at the beginning of that journey, while some of us are a bit more advanced. And we're going to get to the whole pricing and how do I get clients and all that in a second as well. But I would like us to go back in time, if you want, back a trip down memory lane. And I'm very curious to know, what was that prompt, or where were you, in which phase of your life or your career were you finding yourself where you decided, okay, I'm just going to go out on my own? Were you ever employed? Did you ever work in a corporate, etc.? So do take us back to that beginning and tell us what was the defining factor that made you say, okay, I think I'm going to jump at this opportunity. And I'll pass this to Brittany first.
Okay, so for me, I definitely worked at a company or two before I went off on my own. And I don't know if that's always necessary, but it is advice that I often give, is like, don't come out the gate of, learning a skill or whatever, and then just going into freelance life or running your own business. I think it's really great, and at least to help me so much, to work in different businesses, see how they're run, also learning about different companies and sizes and challenges. And you get exposed to so much when you actually work at a company, doing the thing that you want to potentially do as your own business moving forward. So that would be something that I would definitely say was hugely helpful for me. And for me, it was like, I loved what I was doing. And I guess the moment, or the moment where I was like, okay, I think I want to go off on my own, was I was working at a company, and I just felt like the direction that it was going wasn't the same direction that I wanted to go into. And that was the moment where I was like, oh, I think I have to just go off on my own now. I think I'm at that point where I'm ready to do it. And by me saying I felt ready, like, that's hilarious. I didn't feel ready. Like, obviously I was absolutely terrified. And when I left the company and started my own thing, in my mind, the entire time I was like, okay, 6 months, give it 6 months. And like, you're very employable, Brittany, like, you will be able to get a job if this all just goes down the drain and is a disaster. So yeah, that was like really the moment for me. And I had always thought it would be fun to run my own business. I always thought it would be great. And I have to be honest, it blew all of my expectations, I think, out of the water. So I do have really great things to say about working for yourself. Not that it doesn't come with a lot of challenges. And the amount that I've learned since I went, freelance, which was in 2019. So the amount that I've learned in those years is exponentially greater than what I learned the years previous working in companies. Not that I didn't learn a lot then too. But yeah, so I think to answer your question, that would be when I knew that I wanted to do it.
I guess mine is really different. I can tell you the exact date I had my epiphany. It is April the 7th, 2007. And I'm at a workshop where I am testing. A friend said, can you come to our workshop? It's all about crafting brilliant outcomes. We need people to road test it for us. And me being me, I'm a massive extrovert. I was like, of course, I'll come and hang out with you in London. So off I went to this workshop. I didn't have an outcome, so I made something up. And I can tell you what it was. It said, it is April 2009, and I'm an NLP coach and trainer, and I earn £5,000 a year, £5,000 a month. I thought all of that was totally outrageous. And that day, you work through your values, your beliefs, limiting, positive, you look at key actions. And if anyone's done NLP, you'll recognize what I'm saying. Anyway, by the end of that workshop, I lived in London. I cycled home. I rang my Australian buddy. And I went, hey, Simone, I think I might be resigning from Diageo this year. I think I might want to become a trainer and a coach, which I was doing already, but for myself. And literally bad Australian accent incoming. Oh, my God, matey, you'd be so good at that. I think that's a great idea. Sorry, any Australians or even Kiwis in the room. And so to back Brittany, though, I didn't then go in the next day and resign. Let's be really clear about that. 6 months of tears, crying, sorting out finances, asking myself, well, what does that actually mean? Because it came to me. It must have been there in my unconscious, because I was already what we called in global sales capability. So I was already designing, delivering, running workshops, but I knew I couldn't just jump into the unknown. And if I take you back to 2007, you little ones, I'm a bit old. Facebook only just became a thing. Social media, LinkedIn was 2 years old. Like, the social media connections that we have fostered now did not exist. You really had to know your network. So for me, it was about conversations with my network to understand, how did it work? Like, the concept of being freelance, not even out there. So it was like a case, like Brittany's face, what? So like going and having conversations and finding out, conversations, not a text message, a conversation face to face over a cup of tea to find out what could I do. And that's how I made my plan to leave. And then I resigned in October 2007, and I started in 2008, and I moved the stepping stone I always recommend, get associate work. You do not have to go 100% on your own, find your own clients. A stepping stone of associate is a really good. I don't know if that works. Does that language translate for people, being an associate?
Collaborator, maybe?
No. An associate is the clients are not yours. You are delivering on behalf of another training agency. So
All right.
So
they find clients and subcontractor.
Yeah, in the UK we call it associate, and in Europe.
I feel like one thing that I just want to build off of what Kirsty said. So I you said you made the decision and then it was months before you actually left. Exactly the same thing on my side. And one thing that I will say helped me immensely, and I always tell people this when they have a job and they're working, but they're thinking, maybe I want to like make the shift and go off on my own. The one thing that I did that helped me so much when I left was I like mapped out my sort of last 6 months. No one knew that, but I had mapped it out myself. And I thought about the things that I wanted to get out of this job, right? I was like, okay, so I know that I'm not going to be here forever. So for the next 6 months or 9 months or whatever it was, what do I want to make happen for myself? Well, I knew I wanted to get as much experience facilitating, running workshops, running trainings as possible. So I was just like, I'll be there at every single one and whatever, right? The other thing is like, I knew I obviously needed to build some relationships and have some clients who might be interested in working with me. That was huge for me. Every event, every training I went to, everything. My one goal was leave with a really solid connection, like one solid, genuine connection with somebody. And I made it, that was like my one goal every time I, went out into the world in a professional context. And that way, when I left, I felt like I had this, like my skills were amplified. The other thing you can do if you work at a big company, you have like training budgets, like use your, you know what I mean? Like figure out how to make the most of your time at work, especially if you're in that, like not feeling awesome about being there anymore. Like then be like, okay, how am I going to make this worth my time? While you're saving and building up your, a little bit of extra savings that can help you kind of cross over into the freelance world. So that would be one piece of advice I would definitely give to everyone. Everyone wanting to start a business.
Can I just then build, like, I think the money thing is so important. When people come to me and say, can I talk to you about, like, I'm thinking of leaving. So all of the Brittany and I have said, I also say that you have to sit down and work out your finances. If you are married or you're in a partnership with someone, you need to include them as well. You can't just go, oh, I'm leaving, because there's a phrase, and I don't know who the quote's attributed to, but there are 3 addictions in the world right now, and one of them is your monthly salary. And that's where people really struggle to leave. So do a plan of, what do I need? What are my overheads? What do I have to earn? What's the minimum? What can I take out of my daily living at this point in time, knowing that I can start to build it back up again? I think have a financial plan. It will ease the conscience. Even those of you out there who are not financially motivated, who are probably sort of the antithesis, the extremes of, it'll be fine, we'll wing it, it'll all work. Please do a finance plan.
Misha asked, have any of you considered starting freelance on the side in parallel with a full-time gig on top of that?
I think the full-time gig that I had would not have allowed that, just like brain capacity wise. If yours does, cool. I think that one thing that I definitely would recommend starting is start doing some future client / consumer interviews. Start talking to people as much as you can and like spitballing ideas. If you have like one thing that I think is really great when you start your own business, when you go freelance, is to have like one solid offering that you have actually kind of pitched or you've talked to the potential client about and shaped it a little bit. One thing I think when people go freelance right away is people are confused because they don't know how to hire them. It's like, how can I hire you? Well, have something. Even if it's like something that's small, but it's like an intro to your offering or intro to more that you can do with them or whatever, but have something developed. And that I would say you can definitely do. And I did before I went freelance.
I think it's really hard to be gigging, freelancing, and have a full-time job. It's just physically not possible. You don't, as Brittany said, you don't have the brain capacity. If you can go part-time in your role, can you go down to 4 days? Can you go down to 3 days? Someone's put in the chat, get made redundant. I mean, I walked out the door at Diageo and they were shocked. Like, the redundancy mentality didn't exist again in 2007. This is just me showing my age. But because it felt so right inside against my values, like even when they came back and offered me, you might go, oh, they're really cool roles, go to Singapore, go to Dubai. I was just like, no, not interested. And it's probably it is the best decision I made. So I'm still here. I'm still thriving. And as Brittany said, she had in her head, 6 months, there's always something I can go and do. Mine was stacking shelves at Tesco. I've never stacked in the whole.
That was your plan B?
That was plan B.
Damn. All right. That is in a very weird way. That is very inspiring to be like, I'm betting on myself. I'm just going worst case scenario. I'm stocking shelves, like go Kirsty. I'm loving this also because I have been doing a bit of freelancing on top of my role as well. Jessica's here. She's laughing. She's like, ha ha ha. Jessica's my manager, by the way. And so I have been doing that on top of my role, and it is a challenge. And decreasing your, doing part-time both, that is definitely a much more healthier, doable option if that opportunity presents itself for you. Sweet. I'm going to jump to the middle, to the thing of the reason why 80% of the people are in this room. And I have to say that when Kirsty said I started and LinkedIn was 2 and we didn't have social media and Facebook was just like starting, I was like, I found my clients through my network online. And so my partner constantly said, why do you spend so much time on LinkedIn? And I'm like, because that's where I meet people. That's my network. And one day I realized I wouldn't know how to do it without social media. I wouldn't know, because what do you do? Where do you, so do you go out? Do you go into the world and then what? What happened? So long story short, how do we secure our first clients? Securing our dream clients. Brittany is working with Google, with Lego. I know these were on your dream clients list as well, Brittany, for a while. And now, they're on board. We're all dying to know what were some of the approaches that you have tested that have worked well for you. How do we meet clients? You already hinted a bit on the relationships that we have to foster with them. What else have you tried that has worked? Passing this to Kirsty and then Brittany.
I'm busy answering questions in the chat. Sorry.
Saw that was surprise Kirsty with the question. No,
can you ask the question again? I was busy writing text.
Yes. How do we get the first clients?
How do we get first clients? Clients? So I think you need to nurture your network. So classic cliched phrase, your net worth is equal to your network. And I talk about this on the podcast with quite a few people. And we talk about how do you find those clients and how do you keep your clients close and warm, and even if they're not your clients. And I think it's something I'm seeing in the chat that people are saying, Brittany, you do well, which is the sort of the promotion piece, the PR. You need to keep showing up. So firstly, keep showing up on social media, and you need to be offering value. So if all you're doing is shouting about the event you're running or buy from me, people are going to get turned off by that. However, if you are sharing what it is you do and giving them a slice, a sense of what it is, and by giving them some value, they are more likely to come forwards. Also having conversations with people. So I often drop my clients an email, see how they are, or other people would say, pick up the telephone and have conversations. I do that as well. And I get that that's not everybody's cup of tea, but I really recommend putting voice, use your voice. You can do it. have a conversation and see. Another way, but finding that first client, I'm trying to remember what happened. It was Diageo, and I weirdly hadn't worked with them after I left. I didn't work with them for 10 years, but I stayed in contact with a lot of people. I'm a network queen, and I just find it really easy. And then someone came to me and said, hey, we need some help on a sales program. Can you do this piece of work? And we ended up running a really huge program for them, which was I was really shocked actually, because all my associate work was falling away that's a whole other story. But the universe provides, and it came around at the right time. But it is about your network, and don't be afraid to go out there and go to some in-person events.
I would totally, agree with that. I think in-person events are great. They're difficult though. Like even I, as an extrovert, have a hard time like making odd conversation with people. So there's certain events that I like to go to and certain that not. But I would say that in terms of getting clients, I feel like I have sort of like 3 things that I do. And I think that they all work together. One is obviously, like Kirsty said, relationships. So like this is your most powerful tool. I know that I am out on social media and it's like, oh, I'm talking about what I'm doing and I'm giving value and all that stuff, which is great because that helps me get discovered by new people. But the people who buy from me, the people who are like giving me money for my services are the people who I've built relationships with and who trust me and are like, okay, cool, Britt. Yes, we'll pray. Like, they're giving, like, I'm not a cheap person to hire. So I want it to be like that, right? Because I don't want to work like crazy. I want to select my projects and work with really like specific brands and people. So therefore, they need to trust me and they need to know that it's going to be worth, their budget, worth their time, and worth their people's time to be in the room with me. So, your social media and your content, that's about like peppering your name out there. Well, actually, it's about 2 things. It's really about get more eyeballs kind of discovering you and also reminding people that you exist. So like first thing is relationships. The second thing that I think is so valuable and it's so funny and so simple is just that like showing up regularly just reminds people. It reminds people that you exist. It reminds people what they can hire you for. It reminds them that, oh yeah, she's cool. Like I feel like connected to her. It seems like we have a similar value set or whatever. She'd be good in this, working with this team. It's just a reminder. So anytime that you're like feeling like, oh man, like I just don't feel like showing up or I just don't feel like posting, which happens to me all the time. I'm like, you know what, Britt, like get out there and you don't have to do it. You don't have to post every day. You don't have to be on social media every day. I don't. I'm like LinkedIn. I'm kind of like a once a week on LinkedIn person, sometimes twice. Instagram, I'm on there more regularly just because it's easier with stories. But like really it's about the reminder. And then the last thing that I think people really undervalue, especially for someone who's going freelance on their own, is like getting the recommendation, like getting, you know what I mean? So if you have a client, knock that out of the park, like kill it, do everything you can to make sure that project is awesome. And then you want to keep in contact with that client. You also want to give them like, one of the things that I love to do is like give my clients marketing materials. So I'm like, here's all these cool photos. Here's a video of us doing this workshop this week. And that way they can take it. They can show it to other teams at their organization. They can also take it and show it to their colleagues or even people outside of, then you're branching out into other companies. Getting your first client is always the hardest thing, I think. I have to say that I was very lucky. I had already started to build a social media following. The company that I worked at before, AJ and Smart, I was on their YouTube channel. I was very much, my face was out there. So when I said I was going freelance, I had people coming to me, asking how they could work with me. But I'll tell you right now that my first few like phone calls with clients or Zoom calls with clients were I didn't sell to them because I didn't know what I was doing and I didn't know what I was selling. You know, I didn't know what they want. I didn't know how to do it. So my biggest thing is like, have a small thing that you can sell, that you have already had conversations about. I already said that, so I won't repeat myself, but you know what I mean? So getting the first client, I think, is the hardest. That's why I feel like my other recommendation around like before you actually go to running your own business is almost having a client already before you leave, like having a client in mind. You know what I mean? Like I already kind of knew who I could work with, and I kind of knew what I wanted to offer them before I left my job. And I was, you know, I kind of had a couple of conversations, and, you know, so I think that preparing all of that and having one before you go is the best thing you can do. Oh, and one thing that also, because there were a couple of questions about like, you know, content and putting it out there, and Kirsty said it best, make sure you provide value. The last thing that I'll say about that is like those phone calls that you're having with your clients, those discussions, those are your content pieces. Like those are your content ideas. So the conversations you're having, like the questions that your clients are asking you, or, you know, that you're hearing your industry talk about, like those are your best pieces of content. It's like an idea storm, you know? Okay.
Yes. Brittany, I'll stick here because there are two questions actually that have came in so far that are related to that: advertising and PR and design and so on. So you're coming from that background, so it feels like the transition to self-promotion might have been easier for you. I'm curious what sales and advertising brand design tips you have for those of us who don't have the same background. This question comes from Romy.
Okay, so one thing that I did, because although, yes, I have a market, like my background is marketing and communication. So totally. I also really like it. So I tend to lean towards that. I think it's really powerful to find out what your strong suit is in terms of communication, because marketing is just communicating, right? So it's like, do you hate, you know, being on camera? Then don't decide to start a YouTube channel. Do you know what I mean? If you like writing, then hey, like maybe you're someone who shows up on LinkedIn regularly, or maybe you're starting to write a newsletter or something, right? Like, so finding out what your preferred way to communicate, and the preferred way that you can kind of show up regularly without it like killing you, I think is really, really helpful and powerful. You don't have to put your face on video and go out there. Although if you guys are interested in facilitation, then you might, you know, be more prone to that. But yeah, so one thing is one thing that I did that helped me so much, because I'm not a visual person. I'm very bad, actually, hilariously. I worked at a design agency, but have literally zero design skills. I hired a brand designer to help me come up, basically bring my brand to life. So she helped me develop my colors, my fonts. I even got her, this is like back in the day, it was a while ago, but I got her to help create some templates for me, like some social media templates. So I knew that I wanted to do like some carousel posts. So she developed templates for me so I could just like take my thoughts and put them, you know, in there. And I think that one thing that you need to, I really hate saying this, but it's like, you do just need to start and learn and figure it out. Like you will not be able to figure it out by just sitting and thinking about how you're going to explore social media and how you're going to promote yourself. You have to start, and then you'll very quickly start learning. That's what I did. I mean, I actually yesterday scrolled, and now I really am going to ask you guys not to do this. I scrolled down to like my early Instagram days, like where I was like first starting to like talk about, you know, my career and it is just horrific. Like it's so bad. So just know things get better, and you just need to start and get it going. That's like, yeah. Is that helpful? I don't know how more.
Romy, give us a thumbs up, wiggle a finger, tell us, like unmute. Tell us if you have any follow-up questions here.
Amazing. Thank you, Brittany. I appreciate it. As someone who also says I'm terrible in the design world, it's nice to hear your perspective too. Thank you.
Cool.
I'm quickly going to make a plug here for John's question, which is very similar to this. Question from Brittany. They follow you on Insta, and you're brilliant at your own comms. Does it come naturally? And any tips for us that are less confident in front of the camera? I think you already hinted a bit on the type of, right, pick a different channel, right? Is that it? Does it ever get easier?
It sure does. It sure does. My first couple of times putting like the first couple of videos you put out, if you want to put yourself in front of a camera, which I think honestly in this AI world is going to be very, very powerful. So that is something that you should probably think about, because all different kinds of content are going to become, or already are so easy to create. But a real human person with a personality and everything is something that can't really be faked, at least not yet. So I would say getting yourself in front of the camera, the things that I always say is like, you want to practice, record, watch, right? Mm-hmm. The first couple times you press submit or post or whatever, you will be like, oh my God, and just throw your phone away and go for a walk, right? Like that's what I did. It's really hard to see yourself and hear yourself for the first few times. And then I promise after 5 times, it will start to get easier. And just keep it going. I mean, I can say so much more about that, but I talk about that a lot on social media. So we can talk more.
I'd also say, this might sound really harsh. No one's going to see it. You might as well just have a go. I've got friends who are like, oh, you post on LinkedIn. I said, how often do you post? Well, I don't. I said, absolutely guarantee the algorithm won't show this to anyone. So just have a go and get over the fear of even pressing like post or send. And then on the video front, do you know what? Just record it, hit captions and move on and forget about it. Especially in stories, it disappears after 24 hours. I think if you, I've got the mentality of if I can't keep refining it, it drives me nuts. And therefore it is what it is. But come see for yourself, just search School of Facilitation. You can decide if I'm making a hash of it or not. But that's the extrovert in me, because I'm just a bit like, just you get what you see. Now I appreciate other people want to be super. There's those of you out there where your perfectionist streak at this point is like fluttering like this. And that is something we have to accept is not going to always be fulfilled in terms of perfectionism, especially in social media land, in proposals that you write, in conversations that you're going to have with future clients. We need to go for the 80-20 rule, and it's how you help yourself get over that. And that's by doing some inner work, by the way. And that's another thing I think is really important when you're thinking about setting up your own business or running your own business. You need to do your inner work.
There are 2 questions here in the chat that relate to rates. So how do you price your clients, and also how do you create your value proposition? I assume those are very much synced together. So maybe we start with the value prop. How do we know what is it that we're going to sell? You already kind of pointed, like, have one small thing that you can start with and start selling and start there and have one client. What happens afterwards? The reason I ask is that I know established business owners, successful business owners, and I jump at time in calls and they're like, I'm refining my value proposition, I'm changing my ends, I'm scrapping everything and starting fresh. And I'm like, what? After like 10 years and you're rocking it, like what's happening? So I kind of made peace with the fact that that's a never-ending journey. So what does that value proposition process look like for you? And then link to that, how do you price that value? How do you know how much it's worth? Kirsty, do we want to start with you?
Yeah. So what are my propositions? I was answering that question back in the chat for, yes. I think it was John. So for me, it is ever evolving. I've got 2 sides of I've got two parts of the business though. So I have the corporate side and I have the collective, and collective is to all people like yourself. So when we're creating propositions, like creating classes, gatherings, events, I'm often listening to the community. Like, what is it they're saying they need, they want? What are they saying their struggles, their challenges are? And then creating content or creating classes that meets those needs. When it comes to my corporate clients, to begin with, I would just be like, oh, we can do anything when it comes to facilitation or sales or redefining your L&D. What I've worked out is that's fine. And I was getting a lot of work, but actually it wasn't all making me happy. And the bit that makes me super happy is the work that's around working with their leaders, their L&D teams, to enable them to have brilliant facilitation skills and training skills. And so over time, I've honed it. And I just get clearer every time I speak to someone, like, this is what we can do for you. I used to say, oh, you can't do a product when it came to corporate. I now have some really clear products that I can offer up in a blend of masterclasses, in-person events, purposeful practice and coaching. And I've got those all laid out now. When it comes to the pricing, oh my gosh, it's such a timely question, Anna Maria. We did a pricing survey last October. And the biggest response when it came to pricing, it depends. Literally everybody would say it depends. So we were trying to get really clear, like if you're a facilitator, if you're a trainer, by topic, by channel that you worked in. And so that data gave us some really great insights. Maybe some of you were part of that, and I'm grateful if you were. We had 240 responses this time around. We're going to launch it again later this year. But we got some average rates for associate work or subcontractor. We also got a lot of average rates as a trainer and a facilitator. I think the other thing you really need to, though, is back yourself. So look at all your skills. Look at all the work that you have done already. Look at the training you've done for yourself. Look at the experiences you have had and write them out. And then if you can't put a number to it, ask somebody, like, what do you see here? Get them to give you some language, like the type of person. And it's okay. Your pricing is going to change over time. So if you start low now, that's absolutely fine. But every time you quote and put in a pitch, I'd encourage you to add 10%. I really would, because I want you to test yourself. Like the top facilitators and trainers in the UK are charging over £3,000, but they've got 10 years plus experience. And that's just delivery. That does not include design. Design is a whole other conversation. So with 10 years plus experience, 3,000 to 4,000. Now, some of those businesses as well have really high overheads. So I think we need to factor that in, where you've got the big businesses and overheads, they will have an even higher day rate. And also you need to think about your sector that you're playing into. If you're working NGO and charities, it is going to be lower versus leadership, fintech, banks. So you need to just recognize that there's a spectrum of everything in between. So, yeah. And if it's something you want to talk to me about, we do a lot of coaching on this, and we have a program called The Art of Pricing. So,
love that.
Ooh.
Oh, which came on the back. So this, you said, how do you design?
Drop it in the chat, Kirsty. Very nice.
Yeah,
I love that. That was smooth. Drop it in the chat so we can all have a look. Well done. See,
you're all very welcome. I'd love it. I'll be for the next cohort in May or June starting. So if it's something you need to know,
that's cool. I think I would add, so I think what I would say is when I went freelance, I really had no idea what I was doing price-wise. Like I was really throwing random numbers out there. Some were landing, some I would never hear from them again. And I learned sort of there was like a little bit of a sweet spot for the people that I was talking to, right? I don't know if I would necessarily recommend doing that at the beginning, because you might lose some of your first business. But I think what's really interesting to think about is, especially in the workshop and facilitation space, there's really only so much you can do in a month, as in how many workshops you can run. So depending on your offering, if you're like, okay, I have this like 1-day workshop that I want to sell, realistically, you wouldn't really be able to do more than this would be overshooting, but like one of those a week would probably be your absolute max. And I think people often, when they first start facilitating and running workshops, they sort of forget how much energy it takes, how much prep work it takes, and like, you know, client correspondence and organizing all the logistics and everything. So thinking about it that way, and then you're like, okay, what do I want to make monthly? And it's like, maybe that's a nice starting point, right? So it's like, okay, I could do 3 of these a month, and I want to be making, you know, before taxes, I want to be making 6, 7, 8, whatever thousand you want to be making. And then it's like, okay, so that means that I need to charge at least like $3,000 a pop for this 1-day workshop, you know? And then when you put it out there and you get that immediate yes back, you can be like, I think I'll probably charge $4,000 next time. You know what I mean? Like, and I think I love Kirsty's like 10% every time. I think that's awesome. And I'll also put it out there that like, I don't charge all of my clients the same prices. So like, I have clients that I work with, I'm like, I know they've got budget. I know what I'm delivering for them is like really, really valuable. I know I can charge them more. The things where I'm like, I know they're, but you know, like for instance, when I run like a team event, or I'm going to like do a workshop at a conference, I can't charge the same as when I go into a corporate and run like a strategy workshop. You know what I mean? Because the budgets are totally different. So I'm always thinking about what I wanted. Like, I always make sure that what I'm charging makes it like still fun for me. I think it's worth my time, and I'm going to like really deliver an awesome result for that amount of money. I think when you charge too little, you start to sort of, you know, you're like, oh, I'm only making $2,000 for this, and I've spent the whole month, you know what I mean? Like, nobody wins. So yeah, that would be what I would add.
And the opposite of that, Brittany, is if you say yes to work that isn't your sweet spot and it's something you don't really want to do, but you're desperate for money. And as soon as you do that, I can guarantee you'll resent doing the work.
Yes.
It is not, it won't make you happy. And while some of you might be sitting there going, but I really need to say yes, because otherwise I can't pay my bills, I'd rather you said no and asked a friend for help, because genuinely it will demoralize you. It will destroy your soul. I've done it a few times in the early years, and I'm like, never again. I often say to people, look, it's okay that there's quiet times in our diaries. We need those quiet times to do the work on ourselves and on our business. To Brittany's point, we cannot be a machine and just be chucking out workshops or design. You need to factor in the ebbs and the flows. And that takes time. That's not something we're taught in corporate land. Like, that just does, you don't even know what that looks like until you're doing it.
Wow.
There ended the lesson.
Yes, the chat is also on fire. Yes, there's so many things, good things happening. So Shivan asks, how many discovery calls versus potential clients do you aim to take per week? Like, is there a ratio? Are you like very mindful about that? Very strategic? How does that work? I see Kirsty already says, nah, really. Tell us more, Kirsty.
I'm not strategic. I need to be strategic, but I've managed to survive for the last 10 years without being strategic. And I'm not saying this is the way to do it either. So I am intentional in social media land. I'm intentional with the messages I put out. If there's clients I want to talk to, I will message them, especially if they're my current clients, and I will see what's going on. And this might sound, I don't know what the right adjective is. I just feel really lucky that people just turn up at the right time for me. And I don't know how that happens. Well, I do. It's back to Brittany's point. It's about adding value into people's lives and being open and sharing. And I've got my values on the wall here, but I have a big value of abundance and generosity. And I genuinely believe what goes around comes around. So yeah, I think it happens. Oh, thanks for the love, team.
Yes.
Yeah,
this resonates. Whoa. Love emoji. There we go.
One thing that I would say is like what I've learned, and this is like a learning that I had recently. So I've had like the people that like usually I get a feeling from how the person reaches out to me, whether or not this is like a qualified lead or this is just like somebody who's like had an idea and wants to have a conversation, you know, about that, and it's not going to go anywhere. And I've started to figure out like what the different languages that I need to look out for. One thing that I find interesting is people who reach out to me and are like, Brittany, like, I've been following you for a while, or like we've met before at this thing, or, you know, somehow they're already in my network and I know them. And like, those are my hot leads. Cause I'm like, they know me, they know what I can deliver. They, you know what I mean? So I'm going to put a lot of time and effort into those leads. The leads where it's like some random person that I don't really know is like, oh, hey, this person said the word workshop in the meeting the other day. And so I thought I would connect you. And now I'm on this 30-minute call with this person who's no idea what I do, has no, you know, and sometimes that's fine. But I've designed my business where it's like, I want to get on calls with people who already know who I am and what I'm doing. And they're already like, I know how we can work together. You know what I mean? Because then you're not on a sales call anymore. You're on like a like, how can we work together? How can we make this project awesome? You know, those are the kind of calls that I like to be on, and they're the ones that really sell. So in terms of like, what's my my rate in terms of how many calls I want to get onto, honestly, as few as humanly possible, because I want every single person that I get on the phone with to buy. And I would say that I'm not quite there yet, but I would say that it's like, I would say that probably 80% of the people that I get on a call with we end up working together, because I've sort of, like filtered it out, you know, filtered out the people who I'm like, you're probably not up for this, you know? Does that make sense?
Well, this brings us back to social media and this whole presence and connection and being top of mind and showing up regularly and all that good stuff that I think many of us struggle with, to be honest, especially at the beginning, if we're not used to being in that, you know, on social media all the time. So yes, Kirsty.
I just wanted to answer. Brian said, I'm aiming for discovery calls, not sales calls. I never see any of my calls as selling. Because I'm there to understand what it is you need. And so this won't surprise you. I used to do a lot of sales training, so I have a clear process when I go into those conversations. I've got over myself. It's not selling, it's understanding. It's asking you questions to really understand what are your needs. And then I'm listening for those hooks that I would then come back and say, okay, what I'm hearing is ... Here are some suggestions, headline suggestions of where we could go. And I always ask the budget question, what's your budget? And then the ending question I always have is, what's the next logical step in this conversation? And I let them come to me and say, I'd like you to write a proposal. And more often than not, that works. And I did it once if anyone's in the world of selling, they may have heard of Gap Partnership. They're like this global net negotiation skills company. And the chief exec asked me to go and run his conference, which was a real honor. And I did the whole process on him. And I asked him that question at the end, and he roared with laughter at me. And he just said, yeah, good question. You need to write the proposal now. I was like, thank you. Did you expect anything less? So to have someone in my own profession go, that's the way to do it, I was like, but again, something I can help you all with.
Another thing that I think people like might be helpful is like, you don't like, I found at the beginning, I was writing so many proposals. I was like, proposal. Oh, here, I'll just spend 4 hours developing a proposal and it's never going to go anywhere. I did that so much that I think that it's really nice to actually hold off on the writing of a proposal, maybe even have a couple of conversations with someone, you know, like get as much, because then your proposal, like you've asked all the right questions, you have all the information. So just don't rush the proposal writing, I would say because as a one-woman show, it's like the writing a proposal takes so much time.
I've codified up my proposal, to say the least.
Yes. Very good.
And then the other thing as well, I heard the other day when we were doing the art of pricing, someone said if a client can't tell them what the budget is, they will say to them, I'm not going to write you a detailed proposal because it's just no point. However, I can give you a headline of what I would recommend we do, and this is the cost. And they've said
that's so good. I
love you guys. I think we should do it, Brittany. I think it helps.
Yeah.
Speaking of proposals, what's like a must have in the proposal? Like, how detailed do they go? What is something that you have to have? How much is too much? Like, We only have 2 minutes left, so this will have to be like super rapid fire chat. But it seems like this proposal is a big deal. So what do we pack there?
I'm going to write it in the chat what I recommend. It might be easier.
Yes.
I do what's the like what is the problem in my words? I'm like, here's the challenge. What is the solution? What are going to be the outcomes, like the tangible takeaways? And then like a little kind of timeline, budget, whatever. Then I have a little blib about, me and, like linking to social things so they can see if they need to show this person that like, here's the person that I want to bring in for this workshop. That's the kind of stuff. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah. So mine is, I summarize the situation of what they've told me. I then identify the outcomes that they want. I then put my recommendations. So there will be a visual. Then there's each of the elements described. I've got a lot of those codified now, so I can just cut and paste and chuck them in, and obviously refine it. That you need an investment box. If you don't put your investment in, how are they going to know? So break that down. Please put in your investment. Don't make money equal time.
No.
Make equal outcomes. So even if you know it's going to take you 2 days, you don't need to write 2 days. Like just give us, these are the outcomes in the design. This is what it's going to cost. We then have some T's and C's. So if you just headline T's and C's so they can see them, but we do a statement of work and we have contracts now as well. And then at the very end, please do this at the end, just like Brittany said, who are you? Who is, in my instance, School of Facilitation, and we have some logos. In your proposal, do not start with who you are, what you do, and all your great clients. They don't give a shit. They want to know how you're going to help them. What's in it for me? What's in it for my customer? We've already got permission to be there because they've asked you to write the proposal.
I'm adding a hot tip for proposals. When you're like summarizing or when you're on the call with the client, write down some literal, I mean, if you can actually record the call, do that, but write down some like literal things that they say and just flip that back to them. It's this weird trick that they won't remember exactly what they said, but they'll hear it and they'll be like, they'll read that and they're like, she gets it. She totally gets what I'm talking about. And you're like, yeah, it's literally exactly what you said. So like, just like regurgitate the information.
Yeah.
Even in the same language is really helpful.
Absolutely. I call it in the sales process, we call it the pivot point. So you go from asking them all the questions, you summarize, you ask if you missed anything. If they've got lots on they've said to you, what are your priorities? And then you pivot into sharing some recommendations.
Yeah. Yeah. Sweet.
Woo! This was good stuff, I have to say.
Yeah.
I saw some people taking notes. I saw some people taking visual notes. I have here, I have to give a shout out. Who is it? Danielle. Shout out to you. That looks really great.
That's so cool.
We are at time, and I do want to do a bit of a checkout here since there were so many gifts, insights shared. This is an anonymous note to self takeaway. After all of this great conversation, what are you taking away for yourself? No one will know what you put there. This is an anonymous note to self. I started some music in the background. You can adjust volume as well. You can add any LinkedIn links. Kirsty has added some cool stuff as well in there for us to explore. And we are going to send the recap of the event with the whole chat, the recording, of course, everything we had a conversation with today. And our AI buddy will also do a summary of everything that we discussed today. So just to make it very easy for us. Okay, so here's what I see. Just do something, start to do something. Use diverse pricing models, be more bold, use videos. Start recording, sharing the proposal, more videos, be yourself, you're not regret it. Take action, no sales cons, only discovery calls. Have a small thing and sell it, get my codified proposal, be true to your value. Love Kirsty's dry humor. There we go, Kirsty. Dry humor, love. All right, then a big round of applause. I appreciate so much your time and your generosity with sharing your tips and expertise and your lessons. This was amazing. We could have easily gone for another hour. So many questions were left unanswered in the chat. I guess you have to track them down on LinkedIn and social media.
Exactly.
Questions,
Totally.
An opportunity to connect and build those relationships. Have a beautiful rest of the day, everyone. And take care. See you around.
Thank you.